Welcome to Mindfully with Tumishe, the podcast that invites you to explore mental health with honesty, compassion, and openness. Each week, your host, Tumishe Oladapokuku, shares personal stories and stories from people like you. Together, we'll confront mental health myths and build a space where imperfection isn't feared but embraced. From self-esteem struggles to relational conflicts, we're here to discuss it all, with guidance from experts and real raw stories that inspire healing. It's time to live mindfully. It's time to be compassionate with ourselves and each other. Mindfully with Tumishe, new episodes every week, available wherever you listen to podcasts or at blackimages.com.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I wish you guys were privy to what was happening before I pressed on record. This is my first virtual recording in a very long time. And I'm grateful for the person who is on the other side of the camera. Ah, welcome to Mindful with Michelle, where we unlearn the myths, we write the rules, and make room for everybody, every day, people like you and me, to not just survive the noises in our minds or in our hearts, but to support each other through these noises. Uh, and if well, even in the world of mental health, everybody's a mental health advocate these days, but if you're in that world and you're very active in the world, you know that we just rounded off the World Mental Health Month in May, and the world segued into the Men's Mental Health Month, which you all know is very, very dear to my heart. Men's mental health is extremely dear to me, not just because I have a son, not just because I have a husband or brothers, but because a handful of my friends are male, and yes, even the stories that make me. So today we're going beyond talking and collecting stories. The story with Dari Dairo last week, or a person living with his own disability. He's a Polish survivor, and then got married to a supposed abled person who then turns out to be bipolar. Interesting story. If you missed that, I'll link that in the show notes and you can go have fun. But today I have with me for the second time Dr. Kenneth Uwajeh.
Thank you for the fake clap.
Oh my goodness. If you don't know who Kenneth is, you've heard his name over and over and over again in the almost 80 episodes that we've had. If I've had a conversation with someone and I'm talking about my therapist, I'm talking about Kenneth, I'm talking about Moji. So yeah, Kenneth is back in the studio. You know that this team of people, these amazing people, so there's Kenneth, there's Moji, and there's Oluchi. I will held my hands through that interesting 2020 up until now. And together today, we're not just talking about mental health. Well, it's mindful with Jim. Shall we talk about it? But we're going to explore an initiative that the Healthy Mind Foundation is bringing forth to help those of us who are very interested in holding other people's hands. They say that some people might need to get a degree to heal others or to wear a white coat. And I know a lot of people, my brother inclusive, who have the white coat syndrome. He's always okay until he gets to the hospital. I don't know how that happens, but so come closer, let us begin. How are you, Dr. Kenneth? How are you? Because both of us are not just serious, so let us dance small, let us play small, because before the matter changes.
An interview, I'm supposed to act serious.
Yeah, okay. Dr. Kenneth, welcome to my
Let the games begin. Okay, so how am I? Let me start like the white good guys. I'm well oriented in time, place, and person. Non-icteric, no palo, no dolo. Okay, now to the answer to your question.
All right.
That was
Let's go.
400 level medical school. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm fine. I'm predominantly fine because when people say how are you and you say I'm good, it's probably pedantic or complimentary. It's really not the answer to the question. Every now and then I accidentally truly answer. I am fine today, but there are days when I'm not as fine, days when I'm better. It's a spectrum. And that answer segues into what I am pushing these days. Before I was predominantly into healing the sick and growing those who were broken or who felt broken or who were able to admit the brokenness that all of us have. But the gospel is changing slightly from a mental financial perspective. I'm not asking for money in case you're afraid. The the perspective is looking at mental health for what it is as health, not ill health. It's when we talk about wealth, some people have very little, some people have just enough, and some people have a lot. And some people who have a lot today have little tomorrow. Pretty much it's about the spectrum, moving from mental poverty to mental sustenance to mental abundance. That's the new gospel. So right now I'm in a state of mental abundance. But every now and then
borrow me some.
if you make me an offer I can't refuse.
All right, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty much that's what it is. I am doing quite well today. It's exciting seeing you after a while.
Yeah.
And no matter how you feel emotionally, you always have this enthusiasm, this spark in your eyes, even in the midst of darkness that you bring. So it's called an infectious personality.
Interesting. Because I was going to ask you that, considering the conversation we had before, we press record. Does this feel full circle to you? Like the Tumishe you met in 2020 and this Tumishe that you spoke to today or spoke with, not to. How does it feel for you, knowing that you were there at the beginning?
One of the reasons why I'm a psychiatrist and a psychotherapist is because I have an unusual way of seeing things. In my opinion, you haven't changed one bit. Yeah. You've moved through different states of being. But from the very first day I saw you, I saw you. I saw you. So there are layers of pain, there are layers of anguish, there are layers of confusion and maladaptive ways of viewing situations. But amidst all of that, I could always see you. I could always see, even in the middle of tears, I could always see your smile. I could always see the glow in your eyes. And that person was the person I was always talking to. I was trying to find her and help you find her. I was trying to get you, more importantly, to see that version of you that I saw, even though you couldn't see her at the moment. So I never, ever, not for a split second, couldn't see you. Even
Yo,
when you
are you
couldn't
guys
see you.
see what this is what happens when we actually guy, we're not in session no. Like you are on my table, stay. I'm not on your table.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me act like I'm a too. So this is it.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
When I used to train residents at Yaba, I would always say to them that it was a crime for an individual to walk into your room and not be enveloped in the aura of calmness, peace, and joy that every psychiatrist would bring. I said you could be a neurologist and send the same medications. You could be a general practitioner and deal the same drugs. But if you chose to be a psychiatrist, you're a behavioral scientist. But to be truly authentic in that role, you need to see with the eyes of hope. You need to see people from the perspective of their strengths, not their weaknesses. You need to recognize the weaknesses, but see the strength in the person, because I'm human like any other person. If I focus on your weaknesses, then I'm paralyzed by the pain. There are some neurons in the brain called mirror neurons. You see somebody frowning, you instantly feel some degree of sadness. If you're a psychopath, you don't feel that. Yes. but most people feel something. It's called mirror neurons. You're laughing.
Yeah, you're a psychopath. I think everybody has a bit of psychopathy in them.
Yeah, if you make me angry, I'm very psychopathic at the person that made me angry. Then when you're crying after making me angry, I don't feel pity for you. I feel like I'm doing my own back. It's revenge. So yeah, but the thing is, it's easier to give hope when you see hope. It's more genuine. That's why.
Yeah.
They
I've not changed. Okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying.
You've grown in many ways. I mean, you've gotten to see you better and embrace you, not hide you. So you have changed, but the fundamental brightness that you bring has never ever been lost on me.
Oh, thank you very much. So let's now go to, before we go to what we're talking about today, and because of what you just said, one of the first things that you and I had to settle back in 2020 was medication or no medication. I believe that healing could come in several ways. And you did too. But as that changed for you, especially you saying now that the gospel is moved from mental ill health to seeing mental health as health, where are you now? Do you still banter with your patients as to how they want to be treated? Is still within the pattern.
Sometimes clarity comes in silence. Other times it takes a gentle nudge, a conversation, a question, or a pause you didn't know you needed. That's what BHM coaching at Black Images offers. Not a fix, not a formula, but a space. One where your story is safe and your growth doesn't have to look like anyone else's. You can begin with a free discovery session. Just 30 minutes to breathe, reflect, and maybe, if you're up for it, sit with guided meditation. If life feels loud and you need support now, there's mindful coaching on the go. Short, focused check-ins that help you stay grounded when things feel shaky. For deeper shifts, there's the Journey to Being, a mindful exploration shaped by the framework from the book Living Mindfully, A Journey to Being. This isn't about perfection. It's about presence. And if you're someone who needs steady hands over time, the monthly and community plans are there, offering consistent support that grows with you. Visit blackimages.com when you're ready, not to be fixed, but to be seen.
Okay, so there are a few changes as I grow. When the last time I saw you, I was a psychiatrist who had training in psychotherapy and rehabilitation psychiatry. But now I have a doctorate in psychology, which I bagged in October. Yes, I'm addicted to school. Thank you for joining the rest of the world to judge me. But it is the truth. So what has changed now is being a psychiatrist, you're heavily invested in psychopathology. People don't come to you until they are ill. But being a psychologist, people come to you when they want to grow. So my gospel has changed from the perspective of growing just one end of the divide to growing all ends of the divide. So those who need to grow from ill health to wellness, yes. For those who want to get to sustenance, resilience, those who want to get to peak performance, I'm all in. About medication, it's really about the stage of health, right? It's also about the individual. I'm more person-centered now than I used to be because I was a doctor who believed in the medical model. I still believe it has its value, but I recognize value of the person-centered approach, and this is how I share it. The CEO of a company, for example, where I worked a couple of years back, was an accountant, but it was a mental health company. He set his goals for the organization. He knew nothing about how to spell psychosis, mental illness. Nah. But he set the goals, and it was the job of every professional to get those goals attained. And you had the right to resign, but if you chose to stay there, it was your job to get it done. It's the same case with the individual who is in therapy or who seeks my help. He or she is the CEO of their lives, and I am just a professional who gets them their goals. If their goals don't align with mine, I can step aside. But as long as I choose to be part of the team, helping the CEO get their goals, I must respect it. I have a very strange case that I share. There's this lady who had been in and out of psychiatric facilities for the last 20 years. Floridly psychotic in terms of she was hearing voices, she had delusions, she got into fights due to those. So she had auditory hallucinations, tactile hallucinations, persecutory delusions, aggressive behavior. Of course, she couldn't keep a job. And I asked, what are your goals for treatment? You would expect her to say, I don't hear those voices anymore. She's an African American lady. And she said to me, I want to buy houses for my kids. The medical doctor in me would say, Madam, are you all right? House. You're not where you're looking for house. But what I said to her, now that I'm more person-centered oriented, I said, fantastic. And this is how the journey went. I'm like, okay, so you want to get a house. How do you get a house in your opinion? As I'm gonna get me some money, I'm gonna get some house, a good house. Like, fantastic. What kind of house do you want? Like a 3-bedroom for each of my kids. Both of our kids are very wealthy, but she was going to buy them a house. I'm a 3-bedroom for all my kids. Like, fantastic. What you want? A high-end neighborhood? Like, fantastic. Okay, so but to get a house, you need to buy it. What do you use to buy houses? I'm gonna give me some money. Fantastic. But how do you get money? So yeah, you're gonna get a job. But I hate my jobs. They always hit me at the job. They want to come after me. I'm like, yeah, okay. So you need to get a job. How do you get a job? You need to apply for a job. So we basically went down to the point where she remembered that when she took her medication, she was less angry and she stayed longest at the job. After the entire journey, we had an agreement that we're going to buy the houses for her kids, but we're going to start with her attending therapy sessions, taking medication, just so that the voices will stop talking as much, just for them to go necessarily, so that she can get a job, so that she can get money, and then she can buy a house for her kids. She still hasn't bought that house, but she does have a job, and she's kept a job for the last 5 years.
Oh.
Yes. She's not constant in therapy or medication management anymore. She calls to gist with us. She doesn't call to get help. And we're like, you're just calling to gist. We're not a gisting center. And we humor her for like 10 minutes, but bye. Patients are waiting literally who need help. So that's the person-centered approach, where she's grown from needing help to sustenance to abundance. She has a job. She still doesn't have a house for her kids because they are way wealthier than she is. But I embraced her goals, and she embraced my strategy. So that has changed a bit. And she needed medication, so she got some.
I always roll my eyes at medications, but I still take them because I don't have a choice sometimes. Yeah, it's full disclosure. I must say, if you need medication, you're listening to this, I think God beg you.
Yes.
Please do take medication. Dr. Kenneth and I go way back, as a patient, as my therapist, and this guy, you guys saw what she did at the beginning of the show, yeah. Is the other person is munchy. They will just make you talk. But anyways, but it's fun, and you're yourself when you are with this therapist, both of them. And I tell you for free that they make embracing mental health as health, as health and not some ill health thing. Okay, so let's move forward now. People like me, of course, because I remember when back, I think I was 2020 or 2021, when you asked me just the same strategy that you used with this client of yours, when you asked me and I said I didn't want people in pain anymore. like I wanted to educate people, and you encouraged me to. I think you said I should take my no, not I think. You said if I can't write it, I should I should tap into my strength as a writer, my strength as a radio presenter, and of course that birthed Mindfully to me and living mindfully. So my question now is for those of us who are trying to grapple and to break down the academic of mental health questions. Enter the certificate that you're teaching us, the ability course that you want to teach us now. All right. So how, before we get into the course, what are the basic things? I know what to do, but I know a lot of people who are in this world with me now because, of course, contrary to my personality, I'm not going out a lot. I'm going to speeches and all of that. So I meet people daily. What are the basicest things? Of course, there's no one like that, Abby. What are the basicest things that we could do to help people around us? How do we identify?
The basic thing, in my opinion, is to be human. Being human is to be present. Being present is to be mindful. And being mindful is to empty your mind of anything else but what you're doing at the moment. So mindfulness has the word full, but it's the fullness of your presence. So basically, to be filled with something, you need to be empty of anything else but that thing. Carl Rogers, who is one of the fathers of person-centered, always talked about different listening styles, and studies have shown that 86% of healing is dependent on connection. Only 14% is dependent on technique and the rest of the pretty things they teach us in school. And if you have all the technique on earth and you don't have the ability to connect, it's a waste of time. So the basic or the most fundamental, or in your words, the basicest thing is to...
You didn't have to use
is
it.
To be there.
Yeah.
I liked it, actually. That's why I borrowed it. Is to be there. Is to be there. You don't have to have the answers. You don't have to have the solution. You don't have to know what to say, when to say. You don't have to say. You just have to be. There are 3 fundamental psychological needs of human beings. They are competence, autonomy, and relatedness. I use the acronym CARD. That's why I remember it several years after. Competence, autonomy, and relatedness. And the greatest craving, irrespective of your status, is relatedness. And my experience in mental health is that there are 2 core issues: the feeling of hopelessness, and more importantly, the feeling of loneliness. And the solution to loneliness is relatedness. And to be related, in terms of the connection, you don't require a degree. You require attention, presence, mindfulness. The most basic thing is to be present.
Life moves fast, sometimes too fast. If you're looking to slow down and reconnect with yourself, Living Mindfully, A Journey to Being by Oluwatomise Oladapo Kuku might be what you need. It's part memoir, part guide, an honest, deeply personal story about navigating life's noise with intention. Oluwatomise shares lessons from her own journey through struggle, reflection, and healing, with a voice that's equal parts vulnerable and wise.
It felt like she was speaking directly to me, raw, real, and quietly powerful.
Get your copy wherever books are sold, or visit blackimages.com to begin your journey. Living mindfully, a journey to being. Slow down, breathe, begin.
Okay. Car. And I love Carl Rogers, by the way. That was blowing him the kiss. That's what you saw. I love Carl Rogers. I love Carl Jung. Anywho, so I'm going to add that to my toolkit: competence, autonomy, and relatedness. Thank you for sharing. So let's talk about this course. What were the gaps that you saw in everyday people, the way everyday people respond to mental health that birthed you to put this together, this course? Is that sentence correct? No, it's not correct. So what gaps did you see that made you burst? Yes, that made you burst this course. Yeah, better.
Okay. So I'll start by attacking your attack on you.
Yeah, go ahead.
The goal of language is communication, not structure. But I know you won't let it go because of your education.
Thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, thank you for understanding too. But I would not let them go. But let's go.
Yeah. My story for developing this course is quite interesting. It started off being a graduate student in psychology, and I needed to conduct a study about depression for emerging adults. I reached out to a couple of communities, and I'm Afrocentric. No apologies. I eventually found a school. I spoke to most of them there for my qualitative studies, and boom, boom, boom. By the end of the day, I noticed there was a criminally high rate of depression and a decent dose of suicide, all buried in silence. At the end of my dissertation, I got offered a job to be the dean of the college. And I agreed because I wanted to help. However, I do have a criminally busy lifestyle here in the US. I run an outpatient mental health clinic with thousands of lives dependent on me. So I struggled with the ability to provide the services because I was supposed to train people in the Bible college, because the understanding that most people from my study went to their pastors or preachers for mental health services in a myriad of ways. Some of these pastors and preachers were honestly destructive. And I use the word honest because they aimed to help, but they were destroying. There's some degree of hopelessness they shared by saying you were sinning by having emotional turmoil, means you are not connected with God enough, and some of those creative terms that were birthed from ignorance. And there were a few who were able to help accidentally, but none of them had true knowledge on what they were supposed to do. I combined my desire to help them become more competent healthcare professionals through their pastoral ministry to close the gap that I couldn't myself. Because like I said, it's 6% of it is connection. I speak English a certain way. I have an accent that is different from theirs, even though we're all Africans. They have this trust that spirituality gives between parishioner and preacher. So they already had the connection. All I needed to give them was the technique. And voila, it was going to be magic. But I didn't have the time to do it. Eventually, I reached out to one of my guys, Dario Lufumlayo, who used to be a designer, then became an AI guy. I had this chat with him. Hey, guy, how fun? Can you run this thing for me? The next thing he produced, I'm like, whoa, you solved my problem. And that was how the course was created. The course was created largely for key opinion leaders to disseminate the gospel of mental health and provide services to reach places that I couldn't reach physically or emotionally. With all my degrees of somebody walks into the room, like you said, your brother has white coat hypertension or white coats anxiety of some sort.
Yeah, of some sort.
Yeah. So once you walk into a room, you see a psychiatrist, psychologist, and you're African, stigma is always going to give you a jab. But your pastor, your preacher, in the confines of your church, nobody says anything about you walking up to the pastor. If anything, you are celebrated. So my goal was to use key opinion leaders to close the gap that I couldn't close because I couldn't be everywhere at every time, and I didn't have the emotional currency to connect with many people, especially those in low resource settings. That was what birthed my desire to do this. And then once I found out AI could do a lot for me, it then became way more scalable. Here we are.
Thank you for that, and thank you. And I think that I might be wrong though. I don't think I'm wrong, but I think that we always burst, or we are more innovative when we are connected with our purpose. When we're, like we said earlier, well, during the conversation, that when you can relate with the story differently than any other person could. So let's get to this, because I know that a lot of people, and including me, with these resources like this, because because we are in Nigeria, for example, anyone who can articulate their thoughts well or articulate an idea well is generally seen as some demigod. You know what I'm talking about? So what is this? How is it course going to help someone be meaningful with their giving and not becoming some sort of rescuer or wearing the savior complex? I'm just being Nigerian, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the first thing about savior complex in this context is you become a savior because you have superior skills or abilities, right? That's why you can say you have a Chinese sword. You not fight Chinese like we used to say when we were younger. Yeah. Well, we're trying to democratize saving. So the reason why psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, therapists of different sorts are savior-like is because they're such a rarity. They are in this sacred sanctity of mental health professionalism. And even those who don't have the gift of the gab, the gift of the heart to connect, are still held in high esteem, which is a societal delusion. But we're breaking the chains. We're breaking. we are releasing into the environment, release the power. Okay, sorry. I didn't know this part. Okay, we're recording, but everybody be all right. We release the power to everyday people to become mental health providers by equipping them with the skills. So everybody will now become a savior who wants to become a savior. And if this saving sanctity is made open, the veil of the temple is torn, you can worship God in truth and spirit wherever you are.
When
the church is in your heart.
When did you become a priest, though? Because
it just applies.
This your preaching is preaching.
Hallelujah, ladies and gentlemen, no Father. It's time for offering.
Okay. Oh, okay. Offering.
Break time. Okay, so
breaking time. Go ahead.
So
yeah,
the goal is really to make so many people have the skills to provide mental health services that the savior thing is no longer in existence.
Okay. All right, Kenneth, as you continue this conversation, because before we give out links and all of that and how people can get in touch or get connected with the cause, you see, I'm doing the card, get connected with the cause. What does this cause equip people to do and not to do? I think that's much more important, not to do. Yeah.
Well, the cause equips people to recognize and intervene and refer. Like we mentioned earlier, one of the core challenges with mental health disorders is the feeling of loneliness. But when you feel seen and heard, that's the recognition piece. The course also gives you the ability to intervene using what we call psychosocial techniques, psychological techniques, problem-solving therapy, amongst others, and meeting social needs. Somebody's largely depressed because they're hungry and broke. What if you help them get a job? Not everything requires deep-seated therapy or lying down on a couch like Sigmund Freud would like. And then when it gets to a certain level, you want to refer. But a lot of times with early intervention, there is decreased progression towards the other side. So what you shouldn't do, if you're not a medical professional, you shouldn't become a drug dealer by prescribing medications you don't fully understand. But the course would also help you understand some medication side effects and how to recognize what people are taking if it's becoming an issue for them. So what not to do is not to give information you don't know about, not to become who you're not. You're not suddenly going to become a psychiatrist, and you can actually heal more people than most psychiatrists. I can guarantee that, because studies have proven that people who are trained with courses like this actually provide a higher level of success compared to psychiatrists. It doesn't feel good to say, but they trained some elderly ladies in Zimbabwe and their healing rate was way higher than any psychiatrist, multiplied by a factor of 3. So, so you actually can accomplish a lot by staying in your area of competence. So it's the person. Another thing the course also teaches you is to empathize, not sympathize. Yeah, empathy. You connect. You understand how it feels to be in a person's shoes. Don't take the shoes and wear them on your feet. It's not your shoe. That would be stealing sentiments. Yeah. And then both of you are crying. We don't know who to heal them. We now have 2 patients instead of 1. So empathize, don't sympathize. Refer when it's beyond you, and don't become a drug dealer, because if you don't have a license and you share drugs, you are a drug dealer. So that's a summary.
Oh my goodness. So it's amazing you talk about empathy. I was somewhere, like I said, I give a lot of talks, and we're talking about how, with a group of journalists, and we're talking about, and I'm sure you are going to be very happy about this, because I was speaking with journalists, and we're talking about how not to report suicide. And of course, there were a lot of questions, and of course, because I had a personal story around that, it was easy for me to be able to say, okay, you can't use this. Yeah, you can read the papers and say, they say you should not tell the how, you should not, and all of that. But I'm telling you, as a survivor, that if I'm listening to the news and you're telling me so and so can help me fulfill my ideation. All right, that's what it means to say that, oh, so and so person took their lives with so and so. And we got to empathy. So they were like, the question was, so how do we sympathize? And I said, you can't sympathize. You can't even, and the empathy even is, and this is how I define empathy. This is me. I don't know about you guys, but this is how I define empathy. I can understand the feeling. I can feel it. Just like you said, even if both of us wore size 12 wide, which the anatomy of our feet is different. The shoe is still going to feel different. Empathy then becomes me, the empathizer, being wise enough to listen to the person and allowing them lead me on how to heal them. All right. That's just the way I see empathy. Yeah, I feel, but I think it's more like the quiet. Now you understand what they're going through, but are you wise enough? Are you brave enough to allow this person actually tell you what healing means to them, and not you projecting what you think healing is to them? Yeah. And there was a lot
Brilliant.
of silence. There was a lot of silence. Yeah.
I think many of my friends need to hear this in my profession. It's healing is from within in this domain. In surgery, I can cut you and paste you. But in this business of psychiatry, healing is from within. You You can connect when invited,
Yeah.
but they have to heal from within. So just being available for the invite, knowing that if you're invited to the party, you would attend, that in itself brings about healing because that takes away the loneliness. That meets the psychological need for relatedness. Just just the awareness that somebody's here and they care is soothing in itself.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm. So,
Suicide.
suicide, yeah. What about it?
You might see someone in the course and I debate whether or not to say this.
Mm,
For my dissertation for my doctorate in psychology
mhm,
was on emerging adults.
mm,
And it was dedicated to my first cousin
mm,
who died by suicide.
mm.
He he was 21. So that there's a suicide piece on this course is about depression, but it was a year ago. He was 21. So the point is that part is dedicated to him, and it's one of the things that motivated me to do this because the stigma around mental health, I didn't know a lot about his challenges.
Struggles.
Yeah, he was much younger than me. And it's hard to talk about it for anybody. It's hard to understand it for many people. So if I had, I'm not blaming myself, but if someone or me had educated parents using an AI tool in the comfort of their homes to identify, to intervene, to refer,
Mm,
maybe he would be here, maybe not. I know not what
mm,
the path of destiny is, but I know what I can do about it.
mm.
And that's why my first course is on depression and it has a suicide component dedicated to
Awesome.
my cousin. Yeah. So
Yeah.
pretty
I
yeah.
understand. Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting that you know you speak about your cousin and I speak about him with such deep respect and responsibility now, the sense of responsibility and respect. Let's talk about how this course intends to balance cultural sensitivity with clinical truth. You and I know, and like I say, like like I say to you when we're having conversations and all of that, people still look at me funny when I come out to say I live with bipolar affective disorder. I still get that, the shock, all based that they're getting used to it now. But how do we get to that point? Is this course going to, you know, um, look at balancing our cultural sensitivity, clinical truth, and our beliefs around mental health questions?
I hope it will. I'm extremely confident that it would. I'm also conducting research with the content that I created to really validate the impact because what you don't manage is hard to measure the impact. Or what you don't measure is hard to manage. Yes, that's what Peter Drucker said. There are a couple of things that I've done to make sure my goal is accomplished. And when I say basically people like you and I and the rest of the world that are ready for the mental health revolution. First of all, the Federal Ministry of Health did a good job. They took the MH Gap. It's called Mental Health Gap Action Program Intervention Guide, created by the World Health Organization. But the Federal Ministry of Health contextualized it for the African population, the Nigerian population specifically. So they did a lot of the work for me before doing that. But also the Diary and Diary.io externs also used AI to fuse Nigerian context into it. So a lot of my words are textbook words, yes, but we have merged context relevant topics. We use Nigerian names. We talk about real stories in the African context. We talk about real stories in the Nigerian context. We talk about barriers, we talk about challenges, we fuse it. But the best part of it is we're trying to create an app that is an edtech app, basic educational technology app. It has a myriad of courses within it. Those for treatment, those for growth, motivational, full spectrum of health. So it's easy for you to have it on your phone and nobody knows if you're using it for the mental health plans or if you're using it for the Azure training.
Advocates, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's so many courses. But if you want to find the mental health pass, you go in. And the beauty of that is it's self-serving. I have used this to treat patients who, in quotes, were not willing to pay or were not willing to accept. So what I do now is this. I have friends who have depression, who don't like the diagnosis and don't like to acknowledge it. So we found this scam. I give them the work. I say it's not completely done because we're almost at the final phase. Please help me review it. So while they're reviewing it, they are seeing themselves and getting treatment for free. And we can all lie that you don't have depression.
Yeah, but yeah,
we can be deceiving ourselves, which is good enough for me. I'm not asking you. I'm not looking for a confession. I'm not the priest. I'm looking for emancipation. So because people can find these things in the confines of their home, they can break away. But the stigma angle too, a lot of religious leaders have agreed to partner with us because that's a heavy bank of stigma. If those guys, we break into that ministry, then the ministry will break into the rest of the society.
Goodness. The way you're using ministry, though. Ministry, really? Okay, ministry. I hear you.
The ministry is moving. So we also intend to break into the school ministry by reaching out to teachers and prefects in schools. Our goal is to reach out to key opinion leaders in society so that they can become mental health advocates advertently or inadvertently. Because they then understand, they can capture, recognize, and intervene before it gets to. So we are dismantling stigma by focusing on key opinion leaders who basically form the critical mass of how we think and behave. And we don't need people to call the names. I'm not interested in a diagnosis. I'm interested in treatment. I'm interested in growth. I don't care what you call it, vibing the wrong way. I don't know, Gen Zs have chosen my ment, whatever you call it, anything you choose. I mean, language is not important to me.
Well, it's important to me. And you know, but I understand what you're saying. It's important to me.
Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah. So how can people sign up?
People can sign up. I'm going to give you the link for the early phase. I will create a specific password because it's really, really early phase. And there are a lot of discussions that I had with you about the product. But we'll create a specific link for your listeners. They can go and see the early versions. And when we eventually release the full versions, it will come at a cost.
At a cost.
But your audience will get it for free. Because basically the feedback,
Thank you. So I don't want to keep you because I know it's still very early. I'm very time zone challenged, so let me not keep you. If Kenneth Uwajeh could put one tool in everybody's pocket, something they could use to support a friend, themselves, a colleague, what would that tool be? Please don't say listening.
Why?
Because you said it like twice, man. Just kidding. Say, let's go. What would that tool be?
Active listening. They need a variation of it, right?
Active listening. I hear you.
Yeah. Listen, just listen. Because for me, I think, and I've learned that relatedness is the key to solving most mental health challenges. Once the person doesn't feel alone, the person finds hope, even if not in themselves, but from the person who is with them. So active listening, really, really listening. And I think it's something we should practice every single day. I could also tell you something else for creativity's sake, mindfulness, which in my case would be practicing concentration. Practicing concentration meaning don't do two things at the same time, which basically I shouldn't say to a Nigerian mother because I don't know if you people believe in doing one thing at a time because
Oh, sorry.
multitasking is a virtue.
No. It's not like it can't work for me. Like my family teases me endlessly. Like my children, my son, like, are you a mother at home? Because I can only do one thing at a time. Don't stress me. I'm not even kidding. Don't stress me. Like I can't. I'm always going at them. How can you be watching TV and you're on the phone, or you're on the phone, or you are watching? No. Why? Hey,
I'm glad you're the one saying this because I keep telling women, they're like, I'm a mother, you can't understand. You are mansplaining. I'm a mother, you cannot. I'm like, gosh, what do you mean by you don't do it as well when you're doing two things at the same time, no matter how awesome you are.
No matter how awesome you are, no matter how awesome. I made a mistake this morning. I was trying to schedule for the next episode, and right in the middle of that, I replied a message. Like everything was on my system. You know how those things have become. And I replied a message on my system, and I completely lost track. I completely lost track. I just said, okay, you know what? I just put my phone on do not disturb and said, no, I'm finishing this. Like I never could, I didn't know how to multitask. I didn't know people will do it, but I believe it's a myth. Personally.
It's multi-monotasking. There's nothing like multi. I mean, you can breathe and walk, but there are centers of the brain that do one thing, and the center. That's why they use the word pay attention. They say pay attention because attention comes at a cost that you must pay. So, if there's one thing I would say people should do in their own lives for their own healing, is focus, pay attention. When you're taking your bath, when the water strikes your skin, feel the sensation. Be there.
Present. Just be present.
It takes practice because we spend most of our lives practicing distraction. So that's
I want to explore that, but I want to also because we do, you know, as I was saying at a place or somewhere that we were trained or raised on how to be happy. We know the expression or the response we want to give when something happy or joyous happens, but we don't know how to navigate the valleys. We don't know because nobody taught us how to. So when the curveball comes, because we do not have any tool, because we do not know how to emotionally respond to that, then it throws us off, and then we're trying to find it and desperately looking for happy again. What if that curveball was just to slow you down so that you can truly understand what is going on the heels? Yeah. What's that?
Be there.
Just there. Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, I did a good job. Yeah, she's better now. Yeah, that's.
I don't see you as a job. I see you as a person.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Not she's good. Not I did a good job. She's good.
Oh yeah.
She's vibing. I'm trying to Gen Z.
Yeah,
She's
vibing. Yeah, I'm vibing to this mental health thing. So prepare.
Word meant.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Kenneth. Like he said, at the end of this, I'm going to play a snippet from the introduction really that you shared with me, just so people get an idea how it's gonna be. And of course, you're listening. Please, just follow us on Mindful with Timishe. Are you still on social media? I asked for a specific reason. I used to social media.
I can explain.
So how would they reach you though?
I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay, LinkedIn, Dr. Kenneth Uwajeh. On LinkedIn, you find him there, and I'm sure you'll find the details of the course there. But one sure way to get it, follow Mindfully with Tumishe, and you got a link, and like you said, special codes with that. Thank you very much for waking up this early to speak with me. Appreciate it, Dr. Kenneth.
My pleasure.
Do you have any final? Okay, so I'm so Yoruba. I've been struggling with this for like 5 episodes now. When I can't say to people to say their final words. No, final thoughts. Even that sounds very morbid to me. So,
what's the last thing you're going to say before we end the show?
The conclusion of this matter.
Okay.
What are the final conclusion? Concluding thoughts. Yeah. Yeah, that sounded better. Sorry, I'm so Yoruba. Forgive me.
No forgiveness required. That's the beauty of who you are.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so final words would be final statements for this conversation before we go off the podcast, because we are still going to just be present. The future is unknown, the past is gone. The present is the gift. Be present.
So I'll say, I'm not a psychologist. I might have taken some courses, but I can't go to graduate school. Not now. Maybe later. But I feel so old. But I'm not that old, though. I'm very young. Just, But you don't need all the answers. Just the willingness to ask the right questions. You don't need to fix anyone. Sometimes just being there, just like Kenneth has said, is more than enough. If today's conversation said something in you, just take it as a nudge. You're more powerful, more useful than you've been told. And the journey of helping others begins not with a lecture, but with what, Dr. Kenneth? Listening. Abi? With listening. You can learn more about the certification
Actively
course.
Listening.
Actively listening, he said. Again, the certification course in the show notes. And if you know anyone who needs this conversation, share it. You might just be the reason they're holding on just a little bit longer. Until next time, stay mindful, stay present, stay kind, love yourself, love your neighbor, love your country. Above all of this, love God. Is the essence of your being. I am Oluwatunmise Oladapo.
Did you know that 1 in 4 people worldwide will experience a mental health challenge at some point in their lives? Imagine being the one person who can make a difference in someone's life by just listening, offering support, and providing resources when they need it the most. I am pleased to introduce to you a comprehensive mental health training course inspired by the World Health Organization, WHO, Mental Health Gap Action Program, MHGAP framework, and designed specifically for non-specialists.
This is Mindfully with Tumishe, brought to you by Black Images.